Wicked is a musical and a 2024 motion picture based on the 1995 novel.
My name is Gregory Maguire, and I'm the author of the novel called Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West.
While based on Oz characters, Wicked is an entirely new story invention, one that seemed to drop out of a Kansas sky.
I had just begun to think about a possible figure to use for my exploration about the nature of evil. Then I thought of the Wicked Witch of the West. She came to me as in a vision. It was Margaret Hamilton, and she was coming down from the clouds, and she was saying, "I'll get you and your little dog, Tata or Titi or Tata, whatever it's called." And I thought, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, I have had a vision.
It basically tells the story of the Wizard of Oz from the Wicked Witch of the West's point of view. He gave her a name, Elphaba. L. Frank Baum, Elphaba. He's a genius. And they developed Wicked the Musical, which has been running now for 20 years on Broadway. It's a Broadway juggernaut, massive hit, sold out every night. It made careers for Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth.
Popular. I know about popular.
It is Broadway.
What Wicked does is it gives the witch the opportunity to be the heroine of a musical. In a way, she gets to take on the role that Dorothy would usually get.
And now finally, Wicked the Musical is a film franchise. We have a 2-part film series starring Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba and Ariana Grande as Glinda under the direction of John M. Shue.
What Universal Studios is going to do to expand and create the world is beyond the capacities of my prodigious imagination to envision.
It's one of the most well-known and beloved songs of all time. But it almost never was.
As a kid, I hated Over the Rainbow because it slowed down the plot. The directors of The Wizard of Oz also thought it should go because it hampered the forward motion of the story.
It barely made it into the film because people were nervous of, Judy Garland's image singing in a barnyard as the star of this MGM film. I'm so glad that it came back because to me, that's the heart of the whole film.
God, it would not
be the same.
No.
To Harold Arlen and E.Y. Harburg for the year's best song, Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz.
Over the Rainbow went on to win the Academy Award for Best Original Song in 1940 and became Judy Garland's signature song, one she would faithfully sing for 3 decades.
Over the rainbow, why then, oh why can't I?
It was great. I mean, they did the whole set like in our living room, and it was just amazing.
More than 60 years after its release, Over the Rainbow would climb the UK charts as performed by the late singer Eva Cassidy, in a version critically acclaimed for its variations on the song's melody. Hawaiian singer Israel Kamakawi-Vole's unique version of the song topped European charts and was featured in numerous movies and television series. Covered by everyone from Frank Sinatra to Cliff Richard, the song's appeal is timeless. According to his family, comic legend Gene Wilder died peacefully while listening to Ella Fitzgerald's version of Over the Rainbow. And to think it almost never was.
One of my favorite musical numbers from the film is, of course, Over the Rainbow, and the why is because it's Judy Garland's magnum opus.
Why can't I?
Is it true that there's an opening verse omitted from Over the Rainbow? Yes, there is. When all the world is a hopeless jumble and the raindrops tumble all around.
Heaven opens its magic flame.
The Wizard of Oz earned 5 Academy Award nominations, including a nod for Best Picture.
Victor Fleming did win the Best Director Oscar at the Academy Awards in 1940, and the award was presented to him by Mervyn LeRoy. However, it was not for directing The Wizard of Oz, it was for directing Gone with the Wind.
Oz did, however, secure 2 significant awards for its musical achievements.
To Herbert Stothart for the Best Musical Scoring, The Wizard of Oz. To Harold Arlen and E.Y. Harburg for the year's best song, Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz.
Teen star Mickey Rooney presented Judy Garland with a special award.
Members of the Academy, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, it's my privilege this year to present that award for the outstanding performance by a juvenile actress during the past year, Miss Judy Garland.
She was very talented at what she did. We found a quote from 1940 where Judy Garland said, "When I first learned that the budget for Wizard of Oz was set at $3 million, I knew that my entire future depended upon my ability to play Dorothy convincingly." And she gives a very sincere, subdued performance, very different from anything that she had done previously. And it really proved her merit as an emotional actress. And she was acknowledged by the Academy for it.
Now, I thought Judy Garland was just incredible as Dorothy. You know, some people think that her acting style really got her kind of carried away, but I thought she really brought the house down.
Surely the most watched movie in history could not have flopped upon its theatrical release, right? The truth is, The Wizard of Oz failed to break even. But that's not the whole story.
It was MGM's most expensive picture to date at the time, with a budget of approximately $3 million. This was kind of, their way to just show the industry what MGM Studios could do.
It was their policy to release a prestige picture once a year. These were films that were intended to publicly present the studio's opulence, but weren't necessarily expected to return a great profit. It was projected to have made $5 million when it would be released overseas, but of course, World War II prevented that from happening.
MGM re-released it in theaters in 1949, but its real triumph came with its first television airing in 1956.
When the movie came out on Thanksgiving on television, it took over the country in a way. That's shifted everything. And Liza and Dad introduced that, I guess, together.
When you look at the picture, Eliza, you will notice that when your mommy, who plays Dorothy in the picture, is in Kansas, all the scenes are in black and white. But when she opens her eyes in the wonderful land of Oz, everything is in beautiful color, just like a fairyland should be.
I can hardly wait.
Either can I.
The movie absolutely became a knockout. It was a home run.
The arrival every year of the release of The Wizard of Oz on TV was a part of my liturgical calendar. We had Christmas, we had Easter, we had The Wizard of Oz.
It was appointment viewing because this was before VHS, before cable, DVD, or whatever. So when it came on, if you missed it, you had to wait another year for it to come on television.
Were it not for television, the legacy of the Wizard of Oz film would likely be very different than it is today.
Is a story of a young girl trying to find herself in this new world and try to discover who she is as she goes along this journey. And along the way, she meets a few friends, and I think it's kind of interesting because they're all a part of her, but she doesn't realize it until the very end.
The Wiz, a Black retelling of The Wizard of Oz, began as a Broadway musical in 1975, winning 7 Tony Awards. The 1978 hit movie followed, starring Diana Ross and Michael Jackson. And in 2024, an all-new 21st century revival of The Wiz opened on Broadway.
My name is Nichelle Lewis, and I played Dorothy in The Wiz. When they called me and told me I was gonna be playing Dorothy, I was like, in The Wiz? Like, I'm going to be Dorothy. I think everyone in America basically knows about this legacy of The Wizard of Oz. It's such a big thing.
I'd never seen it live before, and so the only version I ever knew was the Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, movie version. But this Broadway version felt the Blackest I've ever seen it in my life. This sounded like us, and that is something that I think is so, so, so special about this current version of The Wiz.
Ease on Down the Road is the hip-hop R&B version of Follow the Yellow Brick Road. Brand New Day to me is a moment where you just feel free and you feel proud and you feel confident. When I think of home. Home for me is when Dorothy is finally remembering that she didn't need all of these extra things and all these extra people, and she already had it. She already had the courage, she already had the strength, she already had the wisdom to get her where she needed to go. We actually heard a story the other day where a little kid said to his mom, he was like, the show is so Black. And for us, that was like exciting and it made us feel good because we're like, yes, that's what it's about. We want him to feel proud of who he is and where he comes from.
The 2023 blockbuster Barbie contains many references to The Wizard of Oz, from Easter eggs planted throughout to the similar narrative journeys of Dorothy and Barbie. But perhaps the most profound contribution can be found in the film's use of the vintage technique of matte paintings. This process involved using a mask to block out part of the image and substitute another. It was especially effective in scenes like Dorothy's departure from Munchkinland and the first glimpse of Emerald City. Though rarely used today, Oz's matte painting technique inspired filmmaker Greta Gerwig and influenced the look and feel of her Barbie movie.
It does something that I wanted to emulate, which it's these incredible sound stages and these painted skies and this sense of authentically artificial. And we executed it like they would have done in the 30s and 40s.
Anybody out here seen The Wizard of Oz as an adult? So then it is the gayest movie in all of gaydom. I mean, no wonder we call them the Friends of Dorothy, right?
A what?
He's a disco dancing, Oscar Wilde reading, Streisand ticket holding friend of Dorothy, know what I'm saying?
No way.
He's gay.
Not even.
Yes, even.
He does like to shop share.
The Wizard of Oz is often described as a camp film, and it has become a film that's popular with LGBTQ individuals and communities. There's a lot in the movie that lends itself to this. You have the Scarecrow when Dorothy arrives at the intersection where he's hanging on his pole, says,
"People do go both ways."
And you have Glinda exhorting the Munchkins to
come out, wherever you are.
And these are phrases that do kind of get picked up as part of gay culture. The journey to Oz becomes a metaphor for leaving the farm, wherever it is that you grow up misfit, and going to New York City or San Francisco, and that's your Emerald City where you connect with your community and where you are accepted. Are you a friend of Dorothy? Why, yes, I am. And it was a phrase that was popular at the same time that Judy Garland fandom was also kind of code for being gay. Judy Garland concerts were a place where gay men who were fans of her could come together and meet in that post-war kind of McCarthyite era.
I think a lot of us in the community, we can relate to her because we've always been told that we're too fat, we're not pretty enough. Any kind of criticism that you can think of was piled onto this young lady, and somehow she still became a shining star in the midst of it all.
Journey Back to Oz.
Journey Back to Oz was an unofficial animated sequel to the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz. Not only did it star Margaret Hamilton as Auntie M this time, but Liza Minnelli, 16-year-old Liza Minnelli, recorded the audio for Dorothy.
We came here to warn you.
She did the voice and the singing.
Think of every happy ending that you've ever read, and you will do.
What's interesting about that film is it stalled in production for many years. It was released in '74, but it had been recorded years earlier. And they did offer Liza Minnelli the opportunity to re-record the voice. Now she was a big Oscar-winning star.
Life is a cabaret, old chum.
And she declined because she wanted to maintain that childlike innocence that she had as a 16-year-old.
Liza Minnelli as Dorothy is about as close as we're ever gonna get to Judy reincarnate, you know? She was absolutely fabulous. It's so good, and it's kind of a mashup of the second and third books of the Wonderful Wizard of Oz series by L. Frank Baum. And Ethel Merman is Mombi.
I've been wanting to meet you ever since your last visit to Oz.
Like, you don't get any better than that.
Disney's journey with Oz actually began during Walt Disney's lifetime.
Now, I'm going to make a picture out of the Oz stories, but I always figured to make it as a cartoon.
When? Takes you 7 or 8 years to make a cartoon feature, doesn't it?
Well, you got me. What's your proposition?
He attempted a Mouseketeers-made movie called The Rainbow Road to Oz, but he was not satisfied with the script or the songs and ended up scrapping it and made Babes in Toyland instead, ironically, with Ray Bolger.
Starring Ray Bolger.
And then he wanted to make an Oz film based in L. Frank Baum's lore.
Walt Disney died in 1966, but his desire to create a Disney version of Oz lived on.
And so they made the 1985 cult classic Return to Oz. Yes, it's one of those 80s films that terrified kids. It is really scary.
Return to Oz, you know, that movie that gave us all nightmares back in the 80s. And Dorothy was locked away in an insane asylum. She got electroshock therapy.
Ready?
Yes, Doctor.
And then she somehow ended up back in Oz with all of her friends. Yeah, it's a stretch.
What I've always loved about Return to Oz, above all the other iterations of the story since 1939, is the fact that Oz, too, is capable of decay and degradation. The yellow brick road is in disarray, and there are all kinds of marauding tribes running around the landscape and making mayhem.
And then, of course, Oz the Great and Powerful came along. And they had just made Alice in Wonderland and made buttloads of money. Can I say buttloads? They made buttloads of money and decided to go that way. And it did not work. It's a fail for me. Margaret Hamilton guest starred on Sesame Street quite unsuccessfully.
Oh, this is glorious, glorious! Back to Oz where I belong!
They wrote an entire episode about respect. Her broomstick falls out of the sky and they take it and she demands it back and they won't give it back unless she asks nicely.
What do you think you're doing with my broom? Give it back!
Sesame Street had not at that point had real stakes. Nothing, there was really no danger on Sesame Street, and she was threatening to transform Big Bird into a feather duster.
How would you like to be turned into one of these?
They got so many letters from parents saying that their children were terrified that they pulled it. And it was just recently rediscovered and re-released for the very first time. I especially love when she came back as herself, as Margaret Hamilton, to try to trick them into giving her her broomstick back.
Now I'll go into the store and see if I can get my broom.
Today's kids wouldn't even blink at this episode, but man, she terrified Sesame Street.
It's helping me just to see you get into these things.
Oh, well, I'm glad.
To know that you're a real lady who got dressed up to play this part.
Now, when she appeared on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, they tried it a little differently. Instead of scaring the wits out of the land of make-believe, she came on, introduced herself, talked about her character and how it was pretend.
How did she talk?
Well, she talked like this. It's very nice to see you.
Oh, that would be fun to be able to talk like...
Sometime in the 1990s, somebody synced up Pink Floyd's album Dark Side of the Moon with The Wizard of Oz and discovered certain thematic correspondences that seemed to be happening between the visuals and the album. This has spread and become a phenomenon, and I've tried it. I think that where it works, it's coincidence. Obviously, I think it is. Pink Floyd have denied that they did it on purpose, for sure.
The synchronization with The Wizard of Oz is bullshit. Is it bullshit? Yeah, of course it is.
I think people are searching for something about The Wizard of Oz that is transcendent or mysterious. I think it might help and it might work better if you're using drugs. Like, I think that's a common part of it.
Grab a seat, spark it up, and get it going the right way. So right when the lion roars for the third time, you start the album.
There's a relationship between children's fantasy and the implication of drug use. It's even in The Wizard of Oz, in the poppy fields, it's the idea of an opium dream, maybe. Certainly it's in Alice in Wonderland, where you eat a mushroom and weird things happen. And I think people are fascinated by that juxtaposition. The idea that there might be something psychedelic about The Wizard of Oz if you sync it up with a Pink Floyd album.
It was the Friday before Labor Day in 2018, and I come home and there's a message on my machine, and I listen to it, and a man tells me he's with the FBI and will I please return his call. On the phone, he said, "We have recovered the ruby slippers." My name is Rhys Thomas. I'm the author of The Ruby Slippers of Oz.
There were multiple pairs of ruby slippers used in The Wizard of Oz. However, only 4 today are known to exist. One pair is in the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. Another resides at the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures in Hollywood. Still another is in the possession of a private collector. But it's the infamous pair owned by Hollywood memorabilia collector Michael Shaw that has taken the strangest journey of them all. In 2005, the slippers were being exhibited at the Judy Garland Museum in Grand Rapids, Minnesota.
On the night of August 28th, someone broke into the museum and stole Michael Shaw's ruby slippers.
It was kind of a thief's dream in that the security system wasn't operational, the camera wasn't running, and the shoes were stored out in the open space in a plexiglass container. And so someone only needed a minute to get in, smash the case, and then get out with the slippers.
The case remained a mystery for over 10 years. But in 2017, a lawyer from Florida approached the insurance company that had insured the pair for $1 million, offering to arrange the return of the shoes for a fee.
Now they had an extortion plot. Now they had a federal crime. And the FBI set up a sting in Minneapolis and recovered the shoes.
How do I feel? It's like welcoming back an old friend that I haven't seen in years.
The person who's admitted to stealing that pair believed that the shoes were made of real rubies, and his plan was to basically pluck them off and sell them. And the person recently completed their trial, and he is not receiving any additional prison time because he's in hospice care.
There have been rumors of an elusive 5th pair out there that keep surfacing, and people keep chasing it.
The unaccounted for pair of ruby slippers that I've been pursuing would be the holy grail of all movie memorabilia.
Where are they? Why hasn't somebody come forward? They're worth millions of dollars.
Like many props and costumes from The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy's now iconic dress was presumably placed in storage at MGM after the film wrapped, where it would remain indefinitely. How then, 83 years later and thousands of miles away, was the long-lost garment found hidden away in a plastic bag at a Catholic university?
The Hartke Theater was going through some renovations at the time, and our operations coordinator was just clearing out his office, and he was looking up at the faculty mailboxes, and he saw a trash bag toward the back, and he said to the person who was in the office with him, "Can you reach up and just grab that trash bag and bring that down, and we'll get that out of the way for the renovations." And they open it up, and there's a little shoebox. And in the shoebox is this dress, this magical little dress, folded up into a tiny little box. There it was.
Was it actually Dorothy's dress? To whom did it belong? And what would it be worth today?
The Smithsonian said, "We really think this is the authentic dress." It had a little hidden pocket, and it had her name handwritten into the dress. It was authenticated by Bonham's auction house.
As it turns out, the dress had been gifted to Father Gilbert Hartke, the Catholic University Theater's namesake, in the 1970s. The donor was actress and close friend of Judy Garland, Mercedes McCambridge. Ironically, McCambridge is best known today as the voice of the devil in The Exorcist.
And I'm the devil. Now kindly undo these straps.
Father Hartke died in 1986, and then the magical question is, what happened to the dress?
Despite rigorous searching, the dress was never found and eventually forgotten, making its recent discovery all the more exciting. Of the several dresses made for the film, this particular dress was used in the scene where Dorothy melts the Wicked Witch of the West.
The dress was valued at between $800,000 and $1.5 million. What a neat story that we're able to take a dress from an iconic film and use it to help our students who are studying acting in film. We are able to take this dress and become that somewhere over the rainbow for our students.
I think I'll miss you most of all.
Dorothy tells the Scarecrow in the end that she'll miss him most of all, and this was actually a bit of dialogue that was a holdover from a cut subplot. When Richard Thorpe was directing, Dorothy was supposed to be a bit older, and she was supposed to have a very subtle romance with Hunk and Kansas.
Your old pal Hunk?
And that was supposed to translate to the Oz scenes with the Scarecrow. When she was brought down in age, they cut that subplot, but I think a lot of it still subversively gets through, and she had a great chemistry with Ray Bolger. They were just so natural together on screen, and you can read that relationship in many ways. Some people think they're a cute couple, some people think it's a brother-sister relationship, two really close friends. Whatever way, it still works, but she'll miss her Scarecrow most of all for that reason. Judy Garland and Ray Bolger remained good friends. They, of course, starred in the Harvey Girls, and then, of course, he appeared on the Judy Garland television show.
If I only had a brain.
It was just so lovely seeing them reunited.
People wonder, well, what happens at the end of the movie? You know, what does Miss Gulch ever come back looking for Toto? I always just assumed that in the wake of the tornado's destruction, that Miss Gulch coming back for Toto was a very low priority.
Curiously, a 2011 musical adaptation of The Wizard of Oz addresses Miss Gulch's fate, suggesting that a telegraph pole fell on her during the tornado, breaking her leg.
The Land of Oz was a fully functioning theme park on top of Beach Mountain in North Carolina from 1970 to 1980, and it was a Disneyland quality walkthrough experience of the whole story.
The Land of Oz theme park in North Carolina is really the only successful Oz theme park there has ever been. It was structured like a walkthrough musical. So you would follow the yellow brick road and you would go by the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion, and they would sing songs. And you could pretend that you're Dorothy and experience the story of the Wizard of Oz as you walked through the park.
It was an immediate success. The Washington Post named it the #1 tourist attraction on the East Coast, and they saw over 450,000 people in its first season.
This rare photograph shows actress Debbie Reynolds and her daughter, a very young Carrie Fisher, attending opening day at the park.
But as quickly as it was successful, it kind of went south.
By the mid-70s, the Land of Oz was in financial crisis, and a fire in 1975 left the park struggling until it closed for good in 1980. Afterward, portions of the park were demolished due to decay and vandalism. Fortunately, the park has since been restored and is now open to the public for a limited time each year.
Every year in September for 3 weekends, they have an Autumn at Oz festival where you can go and experience the magic of the Land of Oz as it is today. You get to live your Wizard of Oz fantasies. It's so incredible. I think it's amazing the amount of love and attention and effort that they put into this every single year, and it's just always so magical.
My name is Vince Bonato, and I'm a cosmetic chemist and a perfumer now for 30 years, and I'm the creator of the Judy Garland fragrance.
In creating a fragrance that captured the essence of Judy Garland, perfumers relied first on a favorite fragrance of Judy's from the 1940s, Magritte, which was located through an archive. And since a species of rose is named after Judy, its specific scent was also incorporated. But that was just the beginning.
I luckily got to work with all 3 of her children, Lauren, Liza, and Joey, and through them, I was able to find out what their mother liked, what she didn't like, what she wore, what she didn't wear. With a 2-year process, getting the fragrance right.
Even the bottle was fashioned after Judy in the iconic dance number Get Happy from the film Summer Stock.
Literally, if you look at it side by side, the tilted hat is fedora. As you go through it, the body, leg movements of actually her body work. And the biggest compliment I got happened to be live on live TV, where I did an Entertainment Tonight segment with Lorna and Liza. And Liza had smelled the final product for the first time on live TV, and she said, "Oh my God, it smells like Mama."
After Oz, Judy's career was a rocket ship. She was making several films a year. She was a box office bombshell. She was everywhere.
Clang, clang, clang went the trolley. Ding, ding, ding went the bell.
Her ticket was written at MGM. She could do any role she wanted, and she was bringing in big money.
Judy Garland starred in over 24 films for MGM. Among these were memorable performances in Meet Me in St. Louis, The Harvey Girls, Till the Clouds Roll By, and Easter Parade, each of which highlighted her extraordinary talent and solidified her place as a Hollywood icon. But by the late 1940s, Judy faced mounting personal struggles, including health issues, marital problems, and addiction. And these challenges affected her reliability and led to multiple suspensions.
Her weight continued to fluctuate. Her health was really suffering. And then she made Summer Stock, and you can see at the beginning of Summer Stock, she looks healthy, she looks vibrant, and that's because she had just come out of treatment and was off the pills. But she was still struggling to get to the set on time. Towards the end of the film, she fell off the wagon. Her co-stars really pulled her through that film. And then they decided to shoot Get Happy. And when she came back to the set, you will notice if you watch the film, she looks like 2 different people. She's so slim and so shaky, and it's because she was on her pill habit once again. And September of 1950, MGM parted ways with Judy Garland.
Judy's concert career began in 1951 with live shows at the London Palladium and a record-breaking run at New York's Palace Theater. She returned to the screen in 1954 with A Star is Born, earning an Academy Award nomination and receiving another nomination in 1961 for Stanley Kramer's Judgment at Nuremberg.
There was nothing like you're trying to make it sound.
However, it was Judy's concert career that propelled her to legendary heights of superstardom in the 1960s.
That was like her third act, and it was a really beautiful part of her life. She found the love of her audience in real time, and I think that was also like a drug to her.
First time I really saw her sing was at Carnegie Hall, and that was an amazing concert. It was like after the concert I was going, I didn't know she could sing like that.
I'm Vanessa O'Neill, and I am Judy Garland's granddaughter. I think she lived an extraordinary life. People like to talk about, obviously things that happen, but I think we all have our, trials, and she is the epitome of somebody who works hard, sticks to her guns, and is an original, and she's awesome.
Judy Garland died of an accidental overdose of barbiturates on June 22, 1969, at her rented home in London. She was only 47 years old. An estimated 22,000 people attended her funeral, and she was interred at Ferncliff Cemetery in Hartsdale, New York. But she wouldn't remain there forever.
January of 2017, and my phone starts going off. I pick up the phone, and this guy is texting me that he works for the airlines and he's putting Judy's body on the plane. And I dropped my phone and was like, that's weird. Who is this person? Why are they reaching out to me? What on earth is going on here? And then shortly thereafter, the news broke around the world that we were getting Judy Garland.
In 2017, Garland's children made the decision to relocate her remains.
The family had her moved in January of 2017, had her moved to join us at Hollywood Forever.
We just decided that she would be better out here, and we agreed on it, and so it's beautiful that she's out here.
June 10th of 2017, that would have been Judy's 95th birthday. We had a private ceremony honoring her life and career in that space where she's now interred. And that night, we showed The Wizard of Oz on the back wall of the Fairbanks lawn.
Margaret Hamilton, the Wicked Witch of the West, continued with a successful career in film, radio, theater, and television for 43 years after The Wizard of Oz. She is fondly remembered as Cora the Maxwell House coffee lady in a series of commercials that ran in the 1970s.
Take a can home. You can make it, 'cause I can.
Hamilton died of a heart attack in Connecticut in 1985 at the age of 82, and her remains were cremated. Ray Bolger, the Scarecrow, outlived all of his fellow cast members. He was prolific in film, theater, and television until 1985. Bolger died of cancer in Los Angeles on January 15, 1987, at the age of 83. He was buried at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California. While Jack Haley, the Tin Man, continued with roles in musical comedies and guest roles in television series, he spent his later career in real estate. Haley died of a heart attack on June 6, 1979 in Los Angeles at the age of 81. His eulogy was given by Ray Bolger, who said, quote, "It's going to be awfully lonely on that yellow brick road now, Jack." Haley is buried at Holy Cross Cemetery, Culver City. Bert Lahr, the Cowardly Lion, continued a career in mostly theater and television until his death from complications from cancer on December 4th, 1976. Lahr was 72.
All my life, when I meet people or they introduce me and say, oh, her father was the Lion in The Wizard of Oz, they go on, they turn into a light bulb. And they say, oh, that's, I feel so embraced by this. And I've spent a lifetime having strangers just say, oh, I loved your father. And I think, oh, I did too, And isn't that great? So it was an extraordinary gift.
Frank Morgan, the Wizard, as well as his numerous other roles on the film, continued a prolific career in film and radio until 1950, when he died suddenly of a heart attack while starring as Buffalo Bill in Annie Get Your Gun on September 18, 1949. He was 59 years old. Morgan is buried in Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn. Billie Burke, the Good Witch of the North, enjoyed a long career in radio, film, television, and theater until she retired in 1960. Burke died of natural causes in Los Angeles at the age of 85. She was buried in Westchester County, New York. Clara Blandick, who played Aunt Em, continued as a successful character actress until her health began to deteriorate in the 1950s. On April 15, 1962, she took her own life with an overdose of sleeping pills. A note she left read in part, "I am now about to make the great adventure." Blandick was 85. Her ashes are interred at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale.
When we talk about The Wizard of Oz, we always have to make the distinction about whether we're talking about the 1939 film or the 1900 novel. They aren't the same story. Famously, the 1939 film ends with Dorothy clicking her heels together and finding herself back in the Kansas household that we have seen with our own eyes has blown away and landed in Oz. So what in tarnation is going on here, Auntie Em?
There, lie quiet now. You just had a bad dream.
It is all a dream, says MGM, says Victor Fleming or whoever made that decision to have Dorothy wake up just the way Alice wakes up at the end of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Oh, it was just a dream, just a passing fancy. You're all right now. Get up and do the farm chores. It was a lie to end the movie like that. And anybody who read the novel as a kid knew it was a lie.
But it wasn't a dream. It was a place. And you were there.
It's not a dream. In the book, it really happens. When Dorothy comes back to Kansas, Aunt Em and Uncle Henry have built a new farmhouse because the old one is still on top of a dead witch in Oz.
That was a sellout. That was a cop-out. Every child in the theater and every child in every living room in the land knew that that is what happened. And when she wakes up in bed and everybody says to her, "Oh, Dorothy, you were just dreaming, Dorothy, Dorothy, Dorothy. Get up and do the chores, for the love of Pete." They are lying to her.
So it is totally different in that aspect, that it is not a dream at all. And there are people who still maintain that they don't think it was a dream in the film either, because they leave it a little ambiguous, which is a nice touch.
Whether Oz is a dream or it's real, what matters at the end of the day is there's no place like home.
Dorothy, I've watched you from afar, pardon me, but you're a silver screen shining star when you say au revoir. Oh, Dorothy, I must say, you mean the world to me, by the way. You pass me by today, Dorothy, and I can guarantee I love you, Dorothy. Your face is like a sunny day. In the night time, could it be you steal the darkness away? The bells chime, Dorothy. They always ring for you, pardon me. Someday I hope you'll see that it's true, and I will wait for you, Dorothy. Dorothy.